Hello everybody, this is another unboxing video from Shadowhunter017. Today we're looking at a figure from the JoyToy Warhammer 40k product lines. Sisters of Battle, Sister of Superior, Kassia. She is 1/18th scale, which if anyone remembers from the late 80s and 90s, those old G.I. Joe figures that had all the really cool big vehicles and were reasonably posable. In theory, she'll be able to be posable right next to them. She can with this scale, she can also go with a lot of the Hasbro Star Wars black figures. But enough with all of that. I'm going to start with a quick overview of the box, and then we're going to move on to opening the package up, doing a piece-by-piece examination of the figure itself, and yeah, we're going to go from there. So you can see nice full-color photograph. I assume photograph artwork here of the figure herself. On the sides, it shows her name, the Warhammer 40k logo, JoyToy, and the Warhammer official product in print. On the back, you've got more photographs of the figure herself in various poses and with all of her equipment laid out in front of her. And on the other side, you've got all the legal information as to where this model came from, the age it's intended for, the barcode, where it was made, and the top and the bottom have another example of the Warhammer 40k logo. So, cracking the box open, the figure is enclosed in a nice plastic clamshell enclosure. And we're just going to do a quick walk around on this. Now, some people might get annoyed that there are pieces that are floating around. It's the nature of these kinds of enclosures. But doing a quick 360, as you can see, she comes pretty secure in the package. So, cracking open the clamshell. We are going to start with the star of the show, and the reason most of you are probably purchasing this figure, if you're even looking at it, Sister Kassia herself, or Kassia herself. And in this configuration, without her mask on, very nice looking figure. She's got good articulation, reasonably tight joints. Head seems to be on a ball joint. We'll be examining that here in a minute. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, the elbows are on a hinge and socket joint. I figured they might be on some kind of a ball type joint given the way they're designed. And the shoulder is on a peg and hinge type joint, which means that Sister Kassia will be able to get a reasonably good amount of opposability. Alright. Getting her arm put back in place. Her legs will have some nice opposability and jointing. Double jointed knee. Ankle appears to be a dual ball joint, similar to some Gundams. Alright, the package shows her sword being removable. I think to do that you'd have to, or her sword belt being removable. I think to do that you'd have to disassemble the figure, so I'm not going to be doing that right now. And her sword can be removed. That is a nice looking power sword for Warhammer 40k. If I were to guess, I would say it's based heavily on a old-style longsword, but I'm not exactly an expert on that field. I know a lot about it, but I'm not an expert on it, if that makes any sense. So, putting that away, she comes out of the package with a trigger finger hand already installed on one hand. And I don't know if that joint is... Oh, that joint's just super stiff. Alright, out of the box, her wrist joints are stiff enough where you might consider being a little more cautious than I just was when it comes to moving them around. Now, the next item up on our agenda is going to be to get her armor completed, aside from her helmet. Now, the people I bought this from, Big Bad Toy Store, lists this as back armor. If you're familiar with 40k, you know this is her armor's power pack. The little nubs on the side rotate for some reason. On the Space Marines, I can understand why they do that, because those nubs would be an exhaust port system. And in some of the old lore, they could use that as a way to operate in a low gravity or even zero gravity environment. But her power pack plugs into her back just like so. It holds nice and tight, nice and secure. So now Sister Cassia's armor is ready to go if you decide to keep her without her helmet on, which is where we're going to go to next. The Sisters of Battle helmet. Again, very nicely done, very nice paint applications. I have no complaints about the way that's designed, and even though I tend to keep her with the helmet on 90% of the time, that is one very nicely done face sculpt. And that's one lady I would not want to try arguing with on anything whatsoever, whether it's on the battlefield or the finer points of a religious debate. And yes, I chose that word deliberately because if you're not familiar with 40k lore, the Sisters of Battle are basically heavily armed battlefield nuns. So let's go ahead and pop that head off. Yep, double ball and socket joint for the head on this. And we're going to pop her helmet on. And there's Sister Kassia with her helmet in its full configuration. So as of right now, she is ready to be armed up all the way and go out and purge some heretic or alien from whatever human realm that she is being sent into. The last item that we're going to go into depth on, because yes, she does come with 4 additional hands. I'm not going to pop them out and do a deep examination of them because they're plastic hands. The most that will be really commentable about them is the paint applications, which they look nice, but there's not really a huge reason to go digging into that, in my opinion. Her weapon. This appears to be a combi flamer. So we've got a bolt gun down below with a flamethrower up top. In most versions of 40k, this flamer would be a single-use item that once it's used, you're down to just using the bolt gun for the rest of the game. It being a flamer fits for the Sisters of Battle because their quote-unquote holy trinity of weaponry is the flamer, the bolter, and the multigun. Her bolter does have a removable magazine with some nicely done apps for the rounds and a good guide. Plugs in and it holds relatively well. After a few days in a hotter climate, that might have a hard time staying in place, and you might need to tap it with some super glue so you don't have it falling out at random points in time. But in a in any other situation, it should work reasonably well. So, I'm going to go ahead and put her weapon in her hand. That fits very nicely. And it is scaled appropriately for a normal human to be able to operate this kind of a weapon. In 40k lore, the bolter is used primarily by members of the Adeptus Astartes, aka Space Marines, and is generally seen as a fully automatic grenade launcher. Because what it does is it fires, I want to say, 40 caliber rounds that are mass reactive, self-propelled rounds that can go and essentially punch into a target and explode inside of them. That works great for the Space Marines because they have been genetically and cybernetically enhanced to the point where they can carry these kinds of weapons without a major issue. And Space Marine power armor absorbs a lot of damages like that. Sister Kassia here would just be a normal human woman, just trained to a high degree and instilled with a belief system that basically says, "Oh, pain, what's that?" So here she is, fully armed, ready to go take on whatever nasty alien species is threatening the realm of man as we speak. And for anyone that's curious, there she is holding her sword, her bolt, or her primary weapon, and whole 9 yards, sitting here ready to go and do her dealio. Now, a quick side-by-side between her and a few of the other JoyToy 40k figures I've picked up. Going from the ones that she would be most likely to work with happily to the least likely to work with happily. In the background, I am putting an Adeptus Custodes in Terminator armor. As you can see, he dwarfs her, which by lore is completely appropriate. Next up is going to be one of the few factions that she would actually probably be working with quite happily, because in the lore, again, they are just as much inclined to religious fervor as she is, if not ironically more so, a Krieg Guardsman, which she is ever so slightly taller. I'm not sure if we should attribute that to the helmet, or if we should attribute that to the fact that she probably has a little bit better nutritional quality than your average guardsman during her upbringing, because the Schola Progenium probably wants to make sure that their future highly indoctrinated sociopaths are as healthy as possible and ready to tear apart the adversaries of the Emperor. And my favorite faction in the game, a lieutenant from the Blood Angels chapter. Now we're going to swap Guardsman and Sister Kassia. As you can see, a little bit taller, definitely broader, but comparing his bolt pistol to her bolt gun, okay, they have the same basic caliber of pistol, or the same caliber of round. So either the Space Marine pistol has a slightly smaller caliber of bolter, or they decided to go ahead and upsize it to keep everyone at the same general scale. The Guardsman is equipped with a full-on bolt pistol adapted for humans to use, and as you can see, that is relatively small compared to what the Space Marine bolt pistol is. In fact, we're just going to go ahead and do a quick side-by-side of all three of these. I am not taking the Guardian Spear for this because I know for a fact it's a full-on bolt gun that's attached to the end of that spear with its power weapon. But yeah, here's all three of the bolt pistols. The one in the middle is the Primaris Lieutenant's bolt pistol. One on the far end is the Guardsman, and the one in the back is the Sister of Battle. So I'm going to say I'm about 90% confident that that the one she comes with is a Sarita's bolt gun set up as a combi flamer. So we're going to bring Sister Kassia back on, do another 360 of her, and we will go ahead and end this particular video. If you enjoyed this content, like, share, maybe drop me a comment if you have any suggestions for how I can make it work a little bit better. There is one more unboxing I'm going to be doing today for Sister Kassia's battle sister armed with a melta-gun, and that will be coming shortly. But here's the 360. I am definitely happy about making this particular purchase, and I'm just debating now, do I want to go ahead and order enough of these to make a full 10 model squad, or just stick with 5 Sisters of Battle instead of doing like I did with the Kriegsman, because there's a lot of duplicates, and army building these ladies is going to be expensive. But you all have a nice day, and I will see you on the next one.